Hey, my name is Lizzie Smiley, and I absolutely love helping people connect with their calling and all the tools they need to kick roadblocks and excuses right out the door so they can cultivate the life they dream about. If you want to launch, grow, pivot, or scale your Etsy shop, or you've always wanted to develop the mindset and skills to run your own business, then I'm your girl. I've had that entrepreneurial spirit going strong since my very first lemonade stand, and now I'm a work-at-home mama with multiple online companies and a full-time Etsy shop, all while being present with my kids for the everyday chaos and most important milestones. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things business, mindset, Etsy, creativity, dazzling our customers, and so much more. There's plenty of room at this table for you, so scooch on in and let's go. I'm holding nothing back. Welcome to How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited. I don't know how long you've been here listening, but a few years ago, I connected with this gem of a human, Juliana Barbati. She's got the most beautiful accent. She is Brazilian. She is gorgeous. She's just like, she's got that hippie soul, even more than me. And so I just love her so much. And she reached out to me via email not that long ago. She's like, girl, we need to have this conversation again. I am still sitting here staring at your space and not seeing Etsy sellers start podcasts when it could literally be like the backbone foundation of their business. It could be driving them crazy traffic. And I'm like, you know what? We are all in a time right now where we can use as much of that as we can get. So we needed to have this conversation. I'm really excited. It's very meaty. It's very chill. We're having a good time. And Juliana is so always like very gracious in giving us lots of information. So let me tell you a bit about her and then we'll welcome her. Juliana Barbati is a podcast strategist and consultant and the owner of a small podcast production agency that supports entrepreneurs in growing shows that align with their voice and values. She specializes in marketing, SEO, copywriting, and podcast monetization. But what really drives her is helping people share their voices and stories in a meaningful way. Outside the podcasting world, Juliana is your typical hippie homeschooling mom, a vegan kitchen alchemist, and a homesteader wannabe who's always down a new rabbit hole. She's all about slow living, intentional choices, and raising wild kids in the tropics of Central America, usually barefoot and probably sipping something green. Are you in love yet? Because it's so good. So let's dive into it. Let's find out if a podcast could be a really good fit for you in building your brand and selling more Etsy products. Please help me welcome Juliana to the podcast. Juliana, hey, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here again.
How long ago was the last one? Was it 2 years now?
Yes, it was before I had my baby. So yes, about 2 years ago.
Yeah, we both had to go and have kids in there. It's okay. We're going to survive. We're going to survive. But I've enjoyed keeping up with you over the years, and I love your energy and your sweet spirit and your brilliant brain. And so I'm so glad you suggested that we talk about this again, because I think it's something that Etsy sellers don't even think about as they're building their brand. So talk to us about like, how can hosting a podcast completely change the game for an Etsy seller?
Yes. So first of all, it's a strategy that I really don't see many people doing in general, right? Most people are, Pinterest, number one, like no brainer. Everybody please be on Pinterest, right?
Yep.
But what if you could show up once a week on a podcast, record your episode, actually talk to the ideal person, like your ideal buyer, talk to their struggles, to their desires, and put in your product in there as the natural solution? What would that do for you, for your brand, for your visibility? Because here's the thing, as an Etsy seller, you have to know the world of SEO. And podcast is no different, right? Like you are using SEO so that you can rank higher in the algorithm. The thing that I tell everybody is that out of all the platforms that we're talking about, SEO, Pinterest, Etsy, YouTube, Google, everything, podcasting is the easiest one to crack when it comes to SEO. So even somebody with even somebody with a very basic level of understanding of SEO and doing some SEO keyword research can kill it on the podcast. And in the podcasting space, it's like the one thing that like 99% of podcasters still don't understand, that the podcast app is a search engine. So for example, if I want to learn how to sell on Etsy, I'm going to go to the podcast app and type how to sell on Etsy, and your show is going to come up and I'm going to start listening to you. So basically, Lizzie, the same way that you have a podcast that teaches people how to sell on Etsy, and people have found you through the podcast, right? Like you are confirming right now that this works because Your podcast listeners found you on the side of the podcast app. So now we're going to take the same concept, but apply it to your Etsy shop. And there you have like this whole way to market your shop in a way that people are just not doing, in a way that's not competitive, in a way that doesn't suck the life out of you. Because yes, Pinterest is fun and all that, but you know, you have to keep up with your account, right? Like you cannot just post a pin today and like disappear. You have to stay on top of the algorithm, right? And like, let's not even talk about Instagram and TikTok, right? Like you cannot just make a TikTok today and like never show up again, right? But the thing with a podcast is that your content is evergreen. So for example, I don't know if your listeners know this about me from, and maybe they haven't listened to the last episode, but I used to actually sell on Etsy myself. And back when I had my Etsy shop, I don't have one anymore, or I closed the original one that I had. I started a podcast for it, and I was making sales because it was the same thing. It was a non-toxic living podcast. I used to sell like kitchen scrubbers. There were like chainmail scrubbers, like for your cast iron pots and stuff like that. So anyway, I had that. That was my main product for a very long time. And then towards the end of my Etsy career, I started making not templates, like ebooks and things like that on non-toxic living, because we grow as a hippie. So I would pitch them on my episode, and people would just from the podcast would come over and buy, and it was great. Yeah, I love that strategy so much because if I still had my that Etsy shop and I still had my podcast, I would still be making sales because the content is evergreen. Mm-hmm. So like, let's say you're like, okay, you're telling me I need to show up once a week. Yes, but if that is not really something you can see yourself doing, right? You can still create a library of episodes. Say you have 12 to 15 episodes. It's an evergreen podcast, and people are still listening to you. The content is still relevant, and they're going to come and find your shop and buy from you. And all you have to do is create those 15 episodes. I will say though, I am a fan of having those more consistent episodes. They tend to work better. You're more relevant, not because of the algorithm itself, but because me as a listener, I want to know that you're still active. So that's why I recommend you just being active. But yeah, it's a strategy that people are just not aware of yet, but it works.
I had never thought of the fact that you really could kind of get a library of episodes out there and you wouldn't necessarily have to tend to it. That's a very interesting thought there, for people who maybe don't want to necessarily keep up with it. But so were you saying it actually doesn't affect the algorithm, because on Etsy, you can revive a dead shop, for example, by starting to list again regularly. If you start putting new listings out, your shop that otherwise isn't getting sales could, not just like the whole shop could kind of come back to life. And sometimes the algorithms, I know, are such a mystery. We don't know. Are we able to get that information about, like, the Apple Podcast app, for example?
All these algorithms, like you said, they are a mystery, but I have tested this because, I own an agency, right? So I have worked with many different clients. I have clients who launched a podcast and they're like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore, but their podcast is still live. And if I search, whatever key term that they were going for in the specific podcast, their podcast will come up. So as a matter of fact, let me try this. So my old podcast, when I started my podcasting career, I was talking about Etsy because that was my experience. I was teaching moms how to make money from home because I figured out a way, One of my most downloaded episodes is called Etsy SEO. And I forget what I call, like Etsy SEO, finally explained in a way that you understand, or something like that. That is my top downloaded episode. And like, look, I just put an Etsy SEO on the podcast app. The first episode that comes up is mine.
Okay, let me try. This is so interesting. And let me try it on mine because you probably follow that podcast, right?
Yes, let me just see. I'm just curious. Follow my podcast. Okay, and I probably will get a different, if I go on my desktop, what will happen?
Oh my gosh.
What do you see?
No, you know what? I do. Do I follow your show? You came up as the first result. And
Isn't
the last
crazy?
episode, the episode it's showing is from October of 2020.
Isn't that insane? And I don't
know. This is embarrassing, but I don't know how to look at the episode and figure out if I'm following your show or not. Let me see here.
So if you click on
follow show. I'm not following your show. I'm not. Oh my gosh, you just proved this. That I'm so excited. This also means I'm not going to take a break, guys, but this means I could take a break and my business could continue a
Yes,
little bit.
and 100% like listen to this. So I put in Etsy SEO. The first podcast that comes up is mine, how to set up your Etsy shop on Amazon or Amazon. I made $3,000 in 7 days. And then the third episode is one that just came out May 31st by another Etsy podcaster, right? So like, guys, this stuff works and like nobody's doing
Wow.
it. Like,
Okay, I have another
and again,
technical
I,
question. Yeah,
yeah,
say
go
it.
ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm getting
No, I was just
excited.
going to say, I was just going to say the same way that you, listener, found Lizzie by searching on the podcast app how to sell your stuff on Etsy, Etsy SEO, whatever other thing, and you found her. That's how your people are going to find you in your shop. Well, eventually your shop through your podcast, but that's how they're going to find you. That is the magic sauce right here. It's a proven concept. It's just nobody is taking advantage of that yet.
They're really not. And so here's my other question for you. So on Etsy, when we are trying to decide, make a data-based decision about what to sell, what the next product is that we should roll out, the next listing or whatever, there are keyword research tools that we're able to use to figure out what the demand is, to kind of guess what the demand is and then what the competition is. Is there the same thing for podcasts?
Well, that is not really how I have ever done research like that. So, for example, when I'm helping a client either launch a podcast inside of the agency or if they bought my course, right? They have a general niche that they're in, right? So like, let's say for me, my actual podcast right now talks about podcasting. So my podcast is on podcasting, right? But like, let's say I embraced the fullness of Juliana, the hippie, the vegan who loves conspiracy theories and whatever. And I open up an Etsy shop. Let's just say that this Etsy shop, I'm selling print on demand, okay? And I'm just selling, my shirts on Tartaria and Little Season and was Jesus vegan? I don't know. You guys, you just roll with me here because, conspiracy theories and vegan, right? I could still make that podcast that's still a little bit more general, right? And I could still send it back to my Etsy shop, even though my Etsy shop, I mean, it still has like a general niche, right? Like it's not just a vegan shop or it's not just a conspiracy shop or it's not just a homesteading shop, right? But it's still like under this general hippie umbrella, let's call it that.
Yes. Yes.
So as long as there is like a general rhyme or reason to what you're selling and you're not selling, I don't know, things that don't go together. Like you're selling, hair ties, but also journals. As long as there is a focus of some sort, then this is going to work.
It's thinking
Does
about that
make
perfect
sense?
customer and like would the perfect customer gravitate towards the different products in your shop? And that makes a lot of sense. So that's so interesting. So when someone starts a podcast and they've paid some attention to the SEO and they've kind of put it around their product that they sell on their Etsy shop or their website, whatever it may be, and they never really get a good listener base, what's usually the reason for that? If it's not saturated, or is it market saturation? Is it there's too many podcasts about that? Or I'm guessing to diagnose it varies every time, right?
It can vary. There's a couple of things, but I will tell you one thing. When people come to me and they're like, I am SEO optimizing my podcast and I'm not getting results, they're not SEO optimizing their podcast. Like there
Wow.
is, they think they're SEO optimizing, but they're actually not, so they're going after, there's a whole methodology that I teach on keyword search volume and all of that. They're probably way outside of that. So they think they're SEO optimizing, but then when I look, I'm like, did you ask ChatGPT to make this title for you? Because this is not SEO optimized, which is the other thing. You can ask ChatGPT to give you a title or any other AI. It's still not there yet. How do I know? Because I have an agency and every week we're pumping out, hundreds of titles for our clients. And like we still do, we still have humans working on titles and
Absolutely.
SEO, like we're doing, like actually physically doing keyword research.
I'll have ChatGPT give me suggestions, but I never go with them directly. I'm always making
Yeah.
edits because I know what they'll click on. I know what keywords need to be there.
Yes.
And I don't want it to sound like AI. So I use it as like an ideation tool. But this
Yes,
is so
100%.
interesting because on Etsy, like we're literally diving into the data of how many people are searching on Etsy for like, for example, homesteader PNGs this month. Oh, there's only 20 searches a month. Maybe this isn't, actually that's not accurate. There's a lot of demand, guys, for homesteading. But if it was only 20 searches based on the SEO tool, I'm like, there's not enough demand to justify me creating this. And then the other factor is the competition. So there could be, let's say there's 2,000 searches a month for a homesteader PNG, but there's 800,000 competing listings. I don't even want to play in that ratio. It's like, as a platform, there's no saturation, but there are certain products that I would say the demand isn't there or the competition is extremely high. It doesn't mean don't do it. It just means understanding what you're putting the work into and what your competition is going to be.
Yes, yes. And then, like, the way that translates in the podcasting space is you don't need to make a podcast episode about the product itself, right? So, like, let's say, you're not teaching people how to create a graphic so you can sell on Etsy. Like, that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're talking to, let's say you're talking to me, the homesteader wannabe, right? And then you're making your episodes for that. Like, are you trying to become a homesteader? 3 steps you need to take right now to plant your garden. I don't know, something like that, right? And then, like, let's say you sell, what can they sell on their shop, Lizzie, that they can?
Well, I loved your suggestion, because one of the other things I want to ask you about was like, what kind of sellers are a good fit? And I love that you brought up print on demand. Like, let's say someone's just making a bunch of like hippie homesteader shirts and things like that. And they decide, well, I've always kind of wanted to be on stage. I'll start a podcast. At least I don't have to show up with makeup on. LOL. Yeah. But then talk to me about what their podcast might be about. I mean, they'd have to really know that end customer.
Yes. And like, the thing of it is this will work for the people who are committed to their shop, right? Like the people that are like, okay, I'm going to do this. I am invested in this. Not the people that are like, how do I make money online? And I'm going to give this thing a try, but I'm not really sure. And I'm also trying 10 different things. Like, this is for the person who is like, okay, this is it. I'm doing this, right? So then when you create a product, there's a likelihood that what you're creating is something that you're attached to. Like, for example, me as a vegan, I'm not going to create merch for carnivores, right? Like, no matter how much demand is there, I'm not going to create merch for carnivores. So there is some, this is rooted in your values, right? So then, okay, who is the kind of person who is going to buy my vegan merch, my conspiracy merch, my all of the above kind of merch, right? Then you think about the person, that person is going to be a lot like you. So what information would you need to hear, to get excited about, so that the next thing is to buy your product from you? Like, it requires a little bit of reverse engineering, but it's really not that complicated. So at the end of the day, you're creating the podcast episode for you a couple of years ago.
Yes, I
because
love that.
Yeah, like your person is just, she's not quite there, or he's not quite there yet, right? So that's how it is. It's really not complicated, rocket stuff here.
No, it's not. But sometimes these things get tangled in our brains. But I heard this quote the other day. It says, be the person you needed 7 years ago, 5 to 7 years ago.
Yes.
Kind of. And I think that's so smart. So this is so exciting, Juliana, because it doesn't matter what kind of seller you are. What matters is, are you serving a niche? It doesn't matter if you sell stickers, if you sell shirts and it's print on demand, if you sell handmade something, if you sell vintage. It doesn't matter what the product is. Any product can work so long as you're going hard on a niche. You are like selling to you a few years ago. You're maybe even selling to yourself now. You understand, you're finding your people basically through the store. And believe me, you start a podcast, you're going to have so many friends. You can't even imagine. It's the best. It's actually one of the unexpected benefits, is like the connections you're able to make through that, the common bonds. You're one of them, Juliana. But it doesn't matter what the product is. It matters, are you selling to a particular niche? And those, you don't have to do that on Etsy, but those shops tend to be the ones that become the mega sellers.
Yes, it's always right. It's the old saying, the riches are in the niches, and that is very true. That's really all it takes. Even going back to the question you asked earlier, if a podcast is just not doing well, okay, let's say the keywords are on point, but then, like, what about your niche? Because if let's take me as an example, right? If I have a podcast that I talk about podcasting, but also veganism and also conspiracy theories and also like homesteading tips for the homesteader wannabe, like, which one is it, Juliana? Like, we can all rank you for all those things, right?
Yeah.
And this is very important. We see the big podcasters in the space, right? Like let's say Joe Rogan, we see Tim Ferriss, we see whoever, right? They're doing interview based episodes and they're talking like Joe Rogan can talk about whatever, right? And he's going to get millions of downloads. Guys, we're not Joe Rogan. Like we have to like have a reality check. Like we are a small fish here. People don't really know who we are. So we have to stay in a niche. So like let's not start a podcast and like not have rhyme or reason. Like we have to stay within a niche. And I have to control myself. Like the way that I bring in my little quirks in my show is that I will talk about things here or there. You know, I will use a vegan example in my show, but at the end of the day, I really have to focus and talk about podcasting, right? So it's the same thing for you if you're going to start a podcast. What is the focus here? And you can bring in other pieces of you, but it's more like as to paint a picture. It's not to actually go off on a tangent and talk about that, you know? So the
Yep.
point is using me as an example. I'm not using my podcast to turn people vegan, but I will say now and then, you know, how do you know I'm a vegan? Don't worry, I'll tell you. You know, like I will use little quirky things like that to so people know that about me and they can connect with me. And they're either if they're vegan, they're like, oh my gosh, she's vegan. Or if they're not vegan, they're like, oh, she's actually pretty cool. You know, because you know, you either love them or hate them, right? So hopefully I can show you that we're lovable people too, you know?
Okay, so what does this look like practically? Like when people is thinking about, okay, I'd be interested in thinking about this. How is that podcast going to translate into Etsy sales? Like what should that funnel look like? What needs to be set up?
I actually do have a freebie specifically for your people, and I'll give you the link so they can see because I pulled out a lesson from my paid course, and that's what they're getting in this.
Wow.
It's a free lesson that they're getting. But basically, let's say that I have a podcast. I'm sorry, that I have an Etsy shop, and I am selling. What can I sell? Give me something like like a digital product. What can that
A
be?
digital product? How about
Yeah,
like
like
homeschooling materials?
oh, perfection.
I
Okay,
know,
super
right?
easy. Like you just made my life easy. Okay, so I'm going to start a podcast talking about, and who is my ideal listener, right? Like, am I talking to the mom who is starting her homeschool, but she's like, I'm not sure I can do this? Or am
Oh
I
wow.
talking to the mom who's like, okay, I am talking to the mom who's like all out. Like her house looks like a whole big homeschooling room. Like everything turns into a science lesson, right? Like we just need to have a little bit of clarity on who we're talking to. And that comes from the products that you're creating, right? Like you have that focus on your shop, right? So I have my homeschooling podcast. Let's say you're talking to the mom, kind of like me, who kind of like wanted to homeschool before she had kids, and then she had kids and she's like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this. And then I sent my kids to school, and then I'm like, no, I cannot do this. So now I'm homeschooling them again, you know. So like she's talking to me. Well, what I need is I need lesson plans. Okay. I tried unschooling, did not work for me. I need structure. So your podcast in general is going to be about homeschooling, but the specific episode is going to be about, you know, how to design the perfect lesson plan so your kids don't fall behind. Okay. And inside of the episode, you're going to be like, okay, so step one, we need to make sure that, you know, you sit down with your kids and you find out what are they into, because that really does shape how you're going to plan your lesson. Are they into lizards? Let's go that route. Let's get all the lizard books and, you know, plan our lessons that way. You know, step two, we are going to get material that is going to complement our homeschooling experience. By the way, if you need help with this, I've got you covered. Go check out the link in the show notes. I have a whole homeschooling lesson on lizards that you can check out right now. All you have to do is add to cart and print, and everything's done for you. And da 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 da. So you see where I'm going with this? Like you're
Yep.
organically weaving in your offer inside of the podcast episode. You know, so we're still targeting the homeschooling mom. And then organically, we're mentioning our offer. We don't need to do an ad. We don't need to get weird about selling. Nothing. You know, now if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know that I can organically sell like this, you could just say this podcast episode is sponsored by the so and so shop. I would say it's a better idea for you to brand the shop rather than Etsy, because one day you get out of Etsy and then what? You know what I'm saying? Like you have your own Shopify store, you know, so it would be even a good idea for you to use Bitly links, because now Bitly lets you swap out links. So if you ever get out of Etsy and you start your own shop, you can go back to the Bitly link and put in your shop link as opposed to your Etsy link. I'm a forward thinking person, so I like to set people up for success.
It's the
Does that
conspiracy. So
make
let
sense
me
what I
let
just
me say
said?
that back to you to make sure I understand. You're saying that, let's say right now you're working out of an Etsy shop and you want to link to things in the show notes or in the podcast description. You would take the Etsy shop link and convert it to a Bitly link to put in the show notes, because then later if you wanted to direct those same people to your website, you can go to Bitly and you can say, "No, I want this link to point over here instead of to that Etsy shop link." Did I say that correctly?
Yes,
That's cool. I didn't know that.
that's right. Yeah,
Look at
that's a new
you.
thing that they just rolled out.
Okay.
So back in my days, I would link it to my Etsy shop. But regardless, like let's say you're like, oh my gosh, what is this Bitly link? I don't even understand. Just put in, go to the homeschooling shop. I'll leave the info down in the show notes. And then that kind of would, what you have to do in the future, if you ever started your Shopify store, is that you have to manually go back to your show notes and switch out the links. It's going to be more work.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that you could do.
Are you a print on demand or digital product Etsy seller who's tight on time or still learning all of the Etsy secrets? I totally remember the days of having no idea what product to create next before I learned how to make those informed decisions so I can really identify with where you're at. I know how stressful and frustrating it can be to just create listing after listing and see little to no results. You wonder what you're doing wrong and you just want someone to tell you what to create that's actually going to sell. Where are those opportunities? So let me give you a leg up with my weekly trends and opportunities report. You just join my membership, and every Monday, I'm going to send you an email with a list of exactly what is trending right now, with a video tutorial showing you how I found those trends and how to apply them in your shop. We're taking guesswork and extensive time off of your table. I'm also going to send you 5 print-on-demand and digital product opportunities that are growing in demand right now, helping new shops make sales and still have very low saturation in the marketplace. So your tight schedule, your newbie status doesn't have to hold you back anymore. I'm going to help you earn while you learn. You can grab my free demo to start and see an example of what the weekly trends and opportunities email looks like right from the show notes. See what you're going to get, and I will see you on the inside soon.
Okay, so the freebie is going to help with kind of like the steps on building that funnel.
It's going to give you ideas on how to set up the funnel. I don't really go into like step 1, this is how you start a podcast, but it's kind of like the idea, like you getting the idea of what can this look like, because you have all these ideas, right? But how does that translate into something tangible? So that's what that lesson is going to help you do.
And this is guys, this is exactly what I do. I create content around what I know you guys want to hear or new things that maybe you haven't thought about. And then I have offers or I have sponsors or I have something that is relevant to that overall topic, not directly. It's not the same topic, but it's relevant that you can go learn more from. And I just mention it and people go click it in the show notes. And that's just what drives the business. So rather than going to create a bunch of reels or creating a pin or creating running an ad. Instead, and here's the thing, this is what was really interesting. I did this research when I was going to be on Jenna Kutcher's podcast. It turns out that people trust podcasters more than like any other, I don't have the number in front of me, the data, but any other output. So they trust them more than YouTubers. They trust them more than bloggers. They feel a direct connection to a podcaster that can really help drive sales. So especially if if you have a product that requires some how do I want to say this? Explanation. Like someone might not directly search it on Etsy. You're going to need to drive some of your own traffic. It's got a bit of a story behind it. There have been a few of you that I've coached over the years that we've even had on the show where it just required a little more explanation, and having this kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? An outlet to be able to talk through, to be able to draw in those perfect people and expose them to what you've got to offer that they're maybe not looking for yet. Wow. I mean, this sky's the limit.
Yes, 100%. Or even like if you sell things that are more expensive, right? Like let's say you sell wooden baby toys, right? Like the person who you're trying to attract, she's me, and she'll drop $100, or wait, what am I saying? She'll drop $400 on like a pickler triangle for her kid because it's made with the right wood and non-toxic everything, right? But how do you attract that person? Because that person might not know to go to Etsy, right? So then you have your podcast all about non-toxic, play and whatever. Like maybe the podcast in general should be about play, right? Like how to play with your baby or whatever. And then you pitch in your pickler triangle or whatever it is that you have, even if you say, okay, I'm thinking about this because in 2020, somebody bought something on Etsy and it got shipped to my house and it wasn't for me. So then I had to contact the seller to have the person come to my house to get it. And it was that game that you have like the little like beanbag things and you throw it and you want to get it in the hole. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, kind of like a cornhole?
It could be. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But let's just say it is, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember that shop sold a lot of like entertainment, like play kind of things, for adults, so then, okay, like your podcast can be about maybe entertainment, like, entertain, because there are people who love to entertain, right? So like your podcast could be about that. And then like, okay, if you want to really take your entertainment to the next level, check out this product that we sell. Or if you're trying to attract the adult who wants to play and they're like, I don't know what that looks like. You're like, I heard Brene Brown talk about play, but like, I just know how to work. Then you make your podcast for that person, so that's how, and you get to have so much fun. Like this really is an extension of the creative outlet, because one thing that we know as Etsy sellers that we are all very creative, right? But sometimes with the algorithm changes and this and that and the other, we feel like, oh my gosh, like this is not what I signed up for. But once, we have our podcast, the sky is the limit, because maybe somebody listens to your podcast. You're like, you know what? Do you want to write a book? Like, let's chat. Maybe if somebody wants to sponsor your show, let's chat. It's not just going to be great for your Etsy shop, but it's also going to open up a bunch of opportunities. Like, again, looking at your show, right? And the doors that it has opened for you, like look at all the doors that your podcast opened up for you. The same thing can be said about the Etsy seller who's listening to the show right now, right? The sky is the limit. And it's very untapped.
That's so interesting that you say that. I would have never thought to myself, it's untapped. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, because most people are not doing it. How many Etsy sellers do you know have a podcast to promote their product?
Their product. I was just going to say, there's other people like me. There's maybe 4 or 5 of us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I actually never look at the competition, because I don't really think about competition. And I want to just say, I want to stay true to Lizzie and that message. But 100%. I don't know about Etsy sellers. I can't think of a single one who's run a podcast. Some of them have been on podcasts.
Yeah. And like, listen, could you go on somebody's podcast? Yes, you could. The thing of that is that it's a lot more annoying for you to like email somebody and say, hey, here's my pitch. Can I be on your show? Versus you have your podcast, you're in control. Let's just do the thing, because, you are the executive producer of your show, and you can talk about whatever. And again, it's your show. It's an asset that you own. So at the end of the day, what you need to understand is that your podcast is an asset. It's not just an extra thing on your to-do list. It really, truly is an asset. It's building your brand in way more ways than you can even imagine. I have clients who, okay, they were not Etsy sellers, right? But I have clients who have been on TEDx, who have launched books, who have had like really amazing interviews with people, all because of the podcast, right? So even me, guys, like, I'm just a girl from Brazil with an accent, and I have a successful podcast. Like, I always say this, if anybody can say, if I can do it, you can do it too, it's me. Like, I can claim that because I've done it. It's really not that complicated, I promise.
Do you think the accent gives you an advantage?
I don't know.
It makes you memorable. I think it makes you memorable.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I listen, I'm like, oh my gosh, is that what I sound like? Because I don't hear hardly ever do I hear my accent. Sometimes like the Brazilian in me really comes out, but most of the time I don't hear it, because if I heard it, I would fix it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how can anybody understand what I'm saying?
Also, how did you get a pickler set in South America? How did that happen?
Well, I found it on Facebook Marketplace, but I guess because there's so many expats here now, a lot of people, so I live in El Salvador, and a lot of people have flocked here because of Bitcoin, a lot of expats. And if you're familiar with the world of Bitcoin, if you know, you know. So a lot of people have come here for Bitcoin. So we have, more of the things that we know and love from the US. So it's a little bit easier to get it here. It's not that easy, but easier. I have
That's a big thing.
Cube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a cube and a triangle. So yeah, really hippie around here.
Look at you go. No, that was my toddler lived on that thing for years. Okay, what was I gonna ask you? Oh, talk to us about like what is like the time and financial commitment to roll out a podcast?
So it can be as cheap or as expensive as you want it to be. So if you're going to go to YouTube University, right? Like if you're not paying with money, you're paying with your time, right? So you could definitely go that route and just do everything DIY. You could buy a course that's going to, fast track your growth. You could hire an agency. Like I have a course and I have an agency, right? It really depends on your budget, how much involvement you want. The one thing I will say is this: do not use a free place to host your podcast. So
Mm-hmm.
in order for you to have a podcast, you need to pay something like Podbean or Buzzsprout or Libsyn or something so you can host your podcast. The same way that, if you have a website and you host it on Shopify or Wix or whatever, right? Like you need to pay the host. There are free things out there. Do not use them. Okay. Because when something is free, you are the product. And if they want to cancel your show one day for whatever reason, they can, right? When you pay for your hosting, you're protected. So I recommend Podbean to my clients. And at Podbean, if you pay the annual plan, it's $109 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, super cheap. There are other ones, right? But don't do the free stuff. Just pay. Pay the $109 if you're gonna pay annual, or like 14 a month if you want to go that route. But do a paid hosting provider. Don't do the free stuff. I was gonna say, don't feel the pressure to do YouTube too, right? Like you're watching Lizzie and you're like, oh man, I gotta start YouTube too. No, do the audio first. Do the audio. Everybody thinks that they have to be on YouTube, and you don't, right? Like Lizzie has a proof concept with her audio podcast, and then she moved to video too, which is a smart thing to do, and it's what I recommend to my clients. Don't just go off and like, oh yeah, all I have to do is put on the camera and do video too, and it's easy. It's not. Okay, YouTube is a different platform. It's a lot harder to rank, and it's different SEO. You have to create thumbnails. There's a lot more work. You have to, look presentable for the camera. So just start with audio. Like audio is the way to go. And then later on, you can move to video. By the way, this is very different advice than what you'd hear if you spoke to another podcast coach. They will tell you do it all. I'm like, no, don't. Okay. Like we're going to do things differently around here. To answer your question, do they need a microphone? I will tell you what. If you're watching me on video right now, you see that I have my wired Apple headphones wired because we're hippies around here and we don't use anything with, Wi-Fi or with Bluetooth. Yeah, no EMF around here. So this is what I started with actually. Right now I do have a microphone, and it's a Yeti microphone. It's the same microphone that Lizzie has. If you talk to any podcasting bro, they will tell you, do not use the Yeti. No, no, no. And I'm like, I love the Yeti. It looks great on photos and it works. Okay. That's really why I bought it, because it looks great on photos. You don't need to buy the expensive microphones. And honestly, I've even recorded podcasts on my phone. All you have to do is like have it a few inches, below you, and then have the microphone part facing you. And then you just speak into it. And I have to say, some of my best performing episodes were recorded on my phone. We have the technology, so you can start your podcast right now with as little as $109, which is the price of Podbean if you're going to go that route, right? And then if you want to buy a course, that's up to you and all that. But everything else, you can get super scrappy. You can go listen to my podcast, and you're going to learn how to do this thing, So $109 is all it takes.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. I didn't know about Podbean. Have you heard of Is it Riverside?
Yes, Riverside is it's kind of like Zencaster, right? Like you use it to record. I do believe this
for having guests. If you're going to have a guest, you've got to have somewhere to do it. You can do Zoom, but the quality isn't as good. But there's another hosting platform that I was thinking of moving to because they had more dynamic ads. I don't even remember. It was something that I don't think so. I'll have to like email you about that. But it was something that was suggested because you can the ads are super dynamic. Like you can have things put in, and you can have like ads running to your whole series. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. So like right now, what do I do? I individually put the ads in every time, but I could with a different one, I could have the ad spots marked, and then I could switch out the ads on every episode whenever I wanted to. And that is crazy because when you really get into sponsorships, like the bigger time stuff where people are paying you, they'll pay for the entire catalog, which means that every single episode that anyone listens to while that ad is running hears their ad. As opposed to having it be pre-recorded. That is wild to me. So it's something I've got to look into for growth. But that's just like I'm throwing you some sprinkles, guys. Like in the beginning, I didn't do any of that.
Yeah, no, that's like super high level, next level kind of stuff that we don't have to worry about right now. But yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, Podbean is what I really love because, for the average podcaster, it'll do. Another one that I am looking into more and more is called Captivate.
Okay.
They also have a bunch of stuff, but Captivate is more expensive too. So it's up to you.
Podbean is
At the end
way
of the
less than
day,
Libsyn. The Podbean's a great price.
yes. Yes. And I'll be honest, I am, because I have clients and they all host their podcasts in different places.
Mm.
I have basically been in every back end of every platform out there, except for Red Circle. I have not had a Red Circle yet, but they basically do the same. The thing of it is that they will charge you more depending on their different features. Podbean tends to not do that,
Okay.
which is why I love Podbean. Like it's the most the
All
price is
inclusive.
great, and you get
Mhm.
so many different things. You can run your dynamic ads and all of that stuff. Don't spend too much time also here, like because that's the next thing. Where do I host my podcast? Podbean, Buzzsprout, Libsyn, Red
Podbean.
Circle,
Listen
whatever.
to
Like
Juliana.
yeah, just start there. You can always move. Although I will say, if you ever do move to Captivate because you get to keep your data, your download numbers, because if you hop from Podbean to Buzzsprout to Libsyn to whatever, every time you move, you reset your downloads. So like, let's say you have 1 million downloads, you move over and poof, they're gone. So you have to like take your screenshots and like prove like, hey, I actually did have 1 million downloads. So Captivate allows you to move your data over, which is great.
I just had a visceral reaction to that. That is horrifying. Okay.
Right? Exactly. So yes.
Are you brand new to Etsy, about to get started, or struggling a bit to find your groove? What I'm about to say is just for you, okay? I can completely relate to where you're at because I think I can help you achieve success faster. When I first started my Etsy shop, it was not one of those success stories that we hear on the big YouTube channels, even on this podcast where I just had crazy success and it took off right away. All right. I all but failed for my first 6 months, just like a lot of new sellers. And so it's very relatable. And the issue for me was I didn't understand demand, for one. I didn't understand SEO. I was way too broad in my search terms. And I didn't know how to position my product so that customers just couldn't help but click add to cart. And so once I learned those things, I went from making about $25 a month in sales to $6,000 a month and up. And in the holidays, I would even have $13,000 months, like at my shop's peak. And the thing about me, if you've been here for a minute, you already know this. I'm a terrible gatekeeper. Okay. When I figure something out, when I crack a code, when I get excited, I cannot help but tell everybody who wants to listen. It's like either my best asset or my toxic trait. I can't decide. But I put everything that you need to know to fill that beginner knowledge gap into a low ticket, just under 3 hours beginner course that I have called 6-Figure Secrets to Getting Started on Etsy. In it, I'm teaching you how to find what's in demand for your niche, how to find and use trends, how to start your shop if you're worried about that part, SEO strategy to find the micro niches where the opportunity is, how to understand the Etsy algorithm, and a ton more. The whole thing is bite-sized videos, not long form, just small bite-sized videos, zero fluff, and to the point. You could get the course today, go through the less than 3 hours over the next couple days, launch your shop this weekend, and have sales coming in as soon as Sunday. So let's get you the few missing pieces of the Etsy success puzzle, those little tweaks you need to make so you can start making the sales that you deserve, because I have never been more convinced that there is room at this table on Etsy for everyone. And the opportunity is so ripe right now. I am in the numbers, in the data every day, and my mind just keeps expanding on the possibilities, okay? So as a special treat, use the code SAVE50 to save $50 on the 6-Figure Secrets course today. That's $50 off with the coupon SAVE50. And by all means, DM me or shoot me an email when those sales start popping because I want to celebrate with you.
So give us what are the first 3 steps for someone starting a podcast? If they want to move, if they want to move in that direction, what are the first 3 things you think they should do?
So get clarity on who your podcast is for. Okay, who am I talking to right now? Because okay, your niche, right? Like who is the ideal person you're making this podcast for? Think about her or him and have the person in mind. We don't really care so much if they have 3.5 kids and they drive a Ford. Like that's not what we care about. Like we care about like the psychological things. Like that's what we want to know, right? So like first step is mapping out your person, your ideal person, which again, your ideal listener is your ideal buyer, right? And then after that, you want to jot down some keywords, like what are they typing when they go on Google? What are they typing, right? Like how to live an untoxic life, how to clean your house with vinegar, whatever it is that they're typing, like just start typing, or, if you're old school like me, start writing with pen and paper. Okay, what are they searching for? Because again, we want to optimize our podcast for searchability so that we can have that visibility. And then the third step, don't get in your way. Just do the thing. Like start, if you don't want to spend money on the microphone, start with whatever headphones that you have, or your phone. Start recording. Start doing the thing. Like don't get in your way. There's this concept called tomorrow thinking, which is, I want to write a book, right? But I don't want to just want a book. I want to get published. No, I don't want to just want to get published. I want to get on Oprah, right? So then this idea that you had about writing a book now suddenly becomes this crazy thing. And it's like, you never do it because like you went from like this idea you're excited about to perfectionism. And
this is my identity, Juliana. You've just outlined my identity, but okay, keep going.
Gosh, that's so funny. There's a podcast episode on this, and you know what? I will email you the podcast episode so you can listen, because this isn't my idea. I heard it somewhere else. But that's what it is. Don't get in your way. Just do the thing. Do it imperfectly. Again, I have an accent. I am messy. Although I do own a podcast marketing and production agency, my episodes, they're not edited. So there is all the things in my episodes, and people listen. And in the 5 years I've been podcasting, I've had 2 bad reviews. One who basically called me out for saying whatever, and I'm like, okay, whatever, bruh. Like, it's okay. And then the other one was more recently, and I kind of saw it by mistake. She was like, the worst 13 minutes of my life, and I'm like, wow, man. I'm sorry, like.
You've clearly never given birth.
Right? Oh my gosh.
Or attended a funeral.
I know. And I'm like, it's fine. You kind of learn to like let the stuff go, right? That's the beauty about the online space. You start to grow a very special kind of thick skin, but don't get in your way. Just do it. If you're lit up about this idea, actually, in my own podcast, it's called Organic Marketing Simplified. I'm doing a series right now, which I'm doing once a month episodes, because clients were coming to me and asking me like, what is the bare minimum I can do? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have data. I'm a very data-driven person. So I started doing monthly episodes to see, okay, what happens? Does my income change or whatever? So I'm kind of running this experiment. But my podcast since January has been focused on one goal, right? So every month you tune in, an episode goes live on the 1st of every month, and it walks you from point A to point B. So the goal is from the beginning of the year until the end of the year, the goal is you're going to increase your downloads. You're going to be monetizing your podcast. Like you're actually going to see something tangible from listening to this podcast episodes. Because what tends to happen is that we listen to a podcast episode and we get super inspired, and then it dies down and life happens and we never do anything with all that knowledge, right? So now we have a goal. We have, we're going from point A to point B. And, so I have that series too, but also my podcast, I'm close to 500 episodes. You're going to find something there that's going to help you, but just do the thing.
I think that's so important. It's the starting. It's the don't talk yourself out of it. Talk to us more. Just like tell us again, if someone wants to explore podcasting for real, what resources do you have that can help them do that, and where can they find them?
So number one, I have that freebie, or it's a lesson that I grabbed from my program. So I'll give you the link so they can go over. It is julianabarbati.com/Lizzie exclusive, but I'm not sure. So I'll just give you the link
in the show notes. Yeah,
it'll be linked. So that's number one. Number two, go listen to my podcast. Go binge. Grab a notebook and pen. I'm all about the notebook and pen. Write down the stuff, so they can actually apply. Because if you apply what I teach, you're gonna see success. I also have a course. So if you're interested in the course, I have a course as well. So those are, just the ways to get started. So wherever you are in your journey, there's something for everyone.
Say the name of the podcast again.
Organic Marketing Simplified.
Perfection. Okay. And then where are you online at all? Do you do Instagram or anything? Where can we find you and connect somewhere?
Well, so I just started.
You're such a hippie.
Ads, so
yeah,
I am such a hippie. I just started running ads. So I grew my business organically outside of social media. I've always been a social media rebel, but now I'm on Instagram, and guys, I have 130 followers. Like, you can message me and I will personally answer you. So, just just don't expect me to show up on stories and show you my perfectly curated life, because that's not real. Okay.
No, yeah, I was gonna say you've never been on social media. That's so fun. Okay, we have to go follow you. What's your handle?
At Juliana Barbati _
Okay, it's all in the show notes, guys, as you know.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. This was so fun. And you've got my wheels turning. They're like things I definitely haven't thought about before. I think this is really a good fit for many of my listeners. We always talk about step one, start an Etsy shop, get organic sales, get proof of concept, let Etsy teach. There's enough to learn right there. Once you've got that, start building an email list. So you can capture so that if Etsy goes anywhere, you've got your own, they're not Etsy's customers, they're yours. Then you can start working on social media so you can be driving your own traffic and build your own website. So we talk about legacy. We talk about building into legacy where you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, but people get freaked out if they try to do it all at once. You're just going to get burned out. This is a really good step there right along that, right about when you'd be starting an email list, because now you're able to really find your ideal client. I promise you, if you start a podcast, you will create better products. You will have a better idea of what products to create. You will make more sales. You will get to know, you will make friends in your niche. There are so many things we didn't even talk about that'll be side benefits. So this is for you if you're at that spot. It doesn't matter what the product is you're selling. So Juliana, thank you so much for encouraging me to be getting this message out again, for being willing to share of your time and your treasures. You're the best.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love these conversations, and like we were talking about before the call, I wish we were neighbors. We
I
would have so much
know.
fun.
We would be such a mess. It would be great. We've got some of that hippie stuff in common. I mean, I'm not quite there on the vegan yet, but I want recipes. I'm definitely like, I like to eat that. Like when I go to a restaurant, if they have a vegan or vegetarian sandwich, that's like often my go-to. I really like it, especially if there's sprouts involved.
Yeah, I know. Those sprouts are the best.
They're the best ever.
Well,
Okay, you guys, thanks
yeah.
for hanging out with us. I love you so much. Until next week, go make something awesome. Take care now.
And that's a wrap on this episode of How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're looking for more resources, head on over to howtosellyourstuff.com, where you'll find podcast show notes, all the links from today's episode, the blog, courses, coaching, and more. If this episode was helpful to you, awesome. The greatest compliment I can receive from you is a rate, review, and subscribe on this podcast. Not only will it allow us to connect again on a future episode, it lets me know I'm providing you with value and helps other people find this content more easily. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. Have a great day and see you next time.